Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my Veterans to Success podcast. You probably know by now, my mission is to help 1 million veterans and entrepreneur business owners achieve the dreams, goals, and aspirations they deserve. That is why I created the Veterans to Success podcast, because I get to interview guys, men and women, who want to share their fascinating stories with you about their time before, during and after their time in the military, so you can benefit and overcome your challenges. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be mesmerized, astounded, and entertained. Hello and welcome to another edition of Veterans to Success. And today I have with me Peter Swierczek, or Pete as you know. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good.
Brilliant. And it's so fun. It's so fabulous to have you here this morning. Now, as normal, and I've given you the brief on this, what I like to do is, instead of a big introduction and going through your career in the introduction, we do a reveal as we go along. And what I can say at this point, right, is that you served in the RAF as the RAF police, and we'll find out exactly what you did. Now, you're listening now and you think, oh, RAF police. Well, I can tell you, right, and guess what? I've worked with the RAF. I worked with them on bomb disposal. I worked with them on other tours, and we do have a bit of banter, don't we, Pete? With the Army and the RAF. But the fact is that your military career is absolutely fabulously interesting, and also the challenges you've faced and overcome them are remarkable. So what I want to do is I want to dive straight in and ask you, what did you do before your military career? Just to give us a flavour of your characteristics.
Predominantly sports. So I grew up in a small town called Carnoustie, and I'm sure anybody that ever plays golf will know Carnoustie quite well. So yeah, golf was bred into us. I played a lot of rugby, a lot of athletics. I competed for the country at the junior level. I think I still hold some track records somewhere as well. But yeah, that was it. I went to university to do sports, dropped out to join up, and that's kind of my life in a nutshell. It was a very standard upbringing from a working class family. It's
a standard upbringing, that you were a top sportsman and you were playing for the country, and what I love about when I was speaking to you, and I'm speaking to you, is the way you underplay a lot of the stuff that you've done. And I know we could do a whole session just on what you did before the military. What I'm interested in, obviously, is the surname Swierczek. Right? It's not your it's not your standard British English name, even though you speak perfect English. Tell me a little bit about that, because that has some influence on probably why you joined the military.
Yeah, so my grandfather, my dad's dad, he was a Polish paratrooper and was based in Fife during the war in a place called Weems. And yeah, obviously he was based there for quite a while during the war, met my gran, married, settled down, had my dad, and one Polish surname later. It's the family tradition stays on. So we all have Polish surnames. We find it quite funny at times. It can be quite frustrating at times having a Polish surname in this day and age. There's still a lot of bias. My wife,
is there?
Yeah, my wife has she went for a job interview, and because her first name's Natalia, it sounds very, very Eastern European.
Oh, of course it does, yeah.
It's a Spanish name. She was born in Spain. She is British, but she was born in Spain. So her Spanish dad gave her a Spanish name. So she went for a job interview, and the first thing the interviewer said was, "Oh, you speak perfect English, don't you?" I can see where this has gone already. There's already a mindset built up, that perhaps she's not going to speak English very well, or
Yeah.
she turned up and she speaks with a soft Dundee accent.
Isn't it interesting that, because I say this to my sons, I make a big thing actually. I said, never judge a book by its cover, and more importantly, never judge someone before you even know them and you found out things about them, because things like a name doesn't represent anything. Because you don't know the background. I found your name interesting because I thought, wow, I wonder where that's come from.
Yeah, we had my daughter's school. For the first 3 years at school, they kept sending us all the correspondence in Polish, and I don't speak a word of it.
That was helpful.
I've been asked by the guys when I was a dog handler. Some of the guys on shift would come up and Pete, we've got these Polish guys at the gate. Can you speak to them? I can do that.
You know? Yeah, of course I can. I can use Scottish.
Yeah. Right.
So you're obviously not a full shilling, because then you decided that you wanted to join the military. Of course, you can be a full shilling and want to join the military as well. I've got to put that in case it's not seen as PC. So what was it that made you want to join, that prompted you to join?
I think I always wanted to join since I was a kid. There's something about it. I used to. So my other grandfather, he was RSM 2nd Battalion Grenadiers, and I used to love listening to his stories. I've seen pictures of him when he did the Trooping of the Colour and all the rest of it, and I was fascinated with that. But I mean, when I was 13, I joined the Air Cadets.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that. My dad had been an Air Cadet. He actually ran the squadron for a while as well. He'd taken his, what do you call it? Yeah, it's like the voluntary commission thing.
Yeah. The cadet instructor. Yeah,
that sort of thing. So yeah, I had a great time doing that. Doing all the activities they do. The flying, the gliding, the shooting, the adventurous training. There was loads to do at that time. I believe it's waned off in these days, which is a bit of a shame. It was a bit how the kids, they don't get the same experiences.
No. Because I love flying myself, and I have a pilot's license. I've never flown in a glider though, and that's a completely different experience, isn't it? Chasing those thermals.
Yeah, I loved it. I'd gone solo. I did. I went
really?
Wow. I was like a pilot. The Air Cadets offered that as a whole thing.
Yeah.
They did flying scholarships. My brother did a flying scholarship with them. Got his private pilot's license. He is still serving with the RAF. He's now training the Qataris, but he was a Tornado pilot for many years.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. He's now training the Qataris on Hawks.
And that's a perfect example of why I believe you should encourage, if you're in a position, encourage your children to do extracurricular activities, because going from an Air Cadet flying a chipmunk to then being a Tornado pilot, I mean, wow. And then also going into the RAF like you have, and you're going to be sharing your career with us during this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think before the Air Cadets, I think I'd always had the aspirations of being a Marine. I did try before I went to college, before I went on to higher education, to go and do the Marines. So I went down and did a 3-day, what's it called, PRC at Livingston many years ago. But I felt that the education side would probably benefit me better. And then 2.5 years into the education side, I thought, nah, let's leave this. I want to go and join up. But the RAF sort of had more of the calling for me. I think it was. I don't know why. There was just something about the trade and what it offered to me. So
yeah, and I mean, there's always been the difference in or a stark difference between RAF and army training because our roles are recognised as different. Having said that, though, for instance, I remember we were bunking up with some RAF lads in a 4-man room, and when they first came along with their kit and dumped it in, because there were two, myself and my mate, and then 2 RAF guys, and they came in and looked at the room and thought, "Is this the accommodation?" They thought it was just transit. I said, "Yeah, this is it." And when we went to the cookhouse, and he didn't believe that we didn't get steaks cooked for us as we walked in. It was just in the hot plate. So there was a stark difference in that respect. But having said that, we still had the same values: integrity, reliability, trustworthiness. So you join up. Basic training is fairly short for what you were doing. What happened?
Yeah. So I think basic training that we went through was 7 weeks, and then I went to St. Athan for a month to do the driver training, and then came back and did 7 weeks trade training as an RAF policeman.
Right. Okay.
So yeah,
And
very, very short. I think it's get us out on the job and get us doing. So
and once you did your training, it's just a license to be a policeman, really, at that point, isn't it? You've not got the experience or the aptitude really for dealing with more complex cases. So what happened then? Where did you go to?
So my first unit was RAF Kinloss, up in the north of Scotland.
Yeah.
I can hear people's heads going, "Oh, you can go up there." It's absolutely stunning up there.
Yeah.
It was an amazing base to be at as well. Not just for the location, but I mean the base itself was very, very good group of people there as well. A lot of them I still keep in touch with today as well. So that was a good experience.
And for those that may not understand what the RAF police do, because usually speaking, when you mention RAF, you think, wow, flight engineers, pilots, you're going up in the air, you're looking after aircraft. What's the role of the RAF police in comparison to that?
We have this is the big one. We've got such a varied set of roles within the RAF police. So yes, you have your standard, as dog handlers we call them feds, your general police duties guys, which is what I started off as. So yes, that's the guys that were out there perhaps with the speed gun and the yellow jacket that you hate when you drive. We do the air transport security is another unit that buttons up over our buttons up over us. So yeah, obviously we have that responsibility for that. Customs and excise as well when planes are returning. Also, there's the dog handling duties, and it's not just the patrol dogs. We've got the search dogs. So we've got the arms and explosives search dogs, drugs search dogs, and so on. What else have we got? We've got special investigations for all the really naughty boys out there. So,
not that there's many, of course, but occasionally.
Yeah, that's the ones that you would normally see if a suit turned up and said, "I'm so and so from the RAF police." That's the ones that you shut up and don't say anything. Sorry, I'll shout out to my friends that were SIB now. So there's the counterintelligence and protective security side. It's the same thing. They changed the name over. So that's again looking at the protection of our assets and personnel. So we know that there's the espionage threats, the terrorism threats, organized crime threats, and so on. And how do we protect our persons and our assets from that and counter all that sort of stuff? Yeah. So that involved a lot of stuff. I specialized. I did that. I went on to do all that and specialized in cybersecurity. So we do also have cyber forensics. We have a tactical wing as well. We have a very vast, array of skills and depth in the trade. So it's actually quite an interesting trade to join if you want a bit of variety.
Yeah, sounds definitely like it. And so you're at Kinloss, and then what is your calling then the next in your career?
I was posted to Lookers, and then I wanted to go dogs. So I volunteered as a dog handler. which was fantastic. I went to Melton Mowbray, which is the Defence Animal Centre. I trained as a dog handler there. I advanced from having done my basic course in that and handled a dog for a while. I went on to I was the first one to go through what we called a QPD2 course. So QPD is obviously qualified police dogs, which is the basic one. QPD2 was the dog trainer. So dog trainer and kennel manager. So I went on to do one of the very first on that course to do dog trainer and kennel manager's course, which again was interesting. Handling two very green dogs, training them from scratch essentially. So, which can be difficult because we had no idea where the background of these dogs, where they came from. They're all donated by the public. They're all unwanted dogs. So yeah.
Oh, so that's good. So you're actually, you're not breeding dogs to do the job. What you're doing is saving dogs that otherwise may have had their lives ended to train them. So yeah, well, I know, having had a dog from Battersea Dogs Home to rehome it, there are lots of things that you don't know about the dog's previous experience, aren't there?
Yeah.
Which can make them quite volatile, if that's the right word.
Yeah, very. I think there was one dog, I remember the name of it actually, Merlin. And he was a vicious beast. I think he'd been used as a guard dog for a scrap yard or something like that. And yeah, it became such a treacherous dog. I watched it chew one of my colleagues quite badly. And then anytime somebody tried to get...
So not chew a shoe or a slipper, chew your...
No, chew the person, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing to watch. But if you're stood in the background, obviously there was one of my other colleagues was out there with the padded sleeve and got the dog off got the dog off him and onto the sleeve, and we got it back to the kennels. Sadly, some of these dogs do have to be destroyed. It's just a thing. Nobody could get this dog in or out the kennel. There's some backgrounds that these dogs have, whatever these dogs have gone through, they're like people. When you see people that have been abused and all the rest of it, sometimes they're at a point where they become aggressive, they become violent, and there's sometimes no turning back from it. And dogs are no different.
Yeah.
So when nobody could get in to handle the dog, it was just a case of, sorry, we have to destroy it. It's
which can be heartbreaking, really, can't it? Especially when you've formed a relationship with it, which is what I want to come on to next. How rewarding is it when you've got that relationship with a dog and you just know what each other is thinking and doing?
It's really awesome. I mean, it's the same. Anybody out there that has a pet dog, when you've got a strong bond with that dog, it's family, Likewise with a working dog, you put your trust in it. The second that dog turns around and looks behind you, you think, who's behind me? You have that bit of faith in the trust in the dog, and the dog trusts you to look after him or her. It's... Yeah, it ends up it makes the job enjoyable. You have fun. You don't the work doesn't become a chore, it becomes fun because you just want to get in there and play with the dog. So we were probably one of the harder working groups in the military, because even on our days off, instead of going down the pub or going anywhere else or going home, you go back up to the dog section, you walk your dogs, you'll groom your dogs, you look after your dogs. You're always up there with your dogs. So
yeah, that's it. That's interesting, and something that people may not realize, because a dog's for life, not just for Christmas, I suppose. And yeah, the dog needs to be, even when you knock off on a patrol, the dog's still got to be fed, watered, looked after, groomed, and made to feel part of the team. Do you like coffee? A lot of people tend to spend money on expensive coffees from outlets without even thinking about it. Well, for the price of just 2 coffees per month, you can gain access to valuable business and life resources gained from my over 37 years in business and 15 years in the military. These world-class resources are designed to help you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations you deserve. So visit joeteams.com now to find out more. That's JOETEAMS.com to find out more.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. So you've reached a high level, and by the sounds of it, right, you like a winning strategy, don't you? Because from being a boy, you're playing rugby, you're playing sport, you're delivering great results. Then you join the military. You've got a good background from your family history. You join the RAF. You then are one of the first to do, or the first on the QPD2, training the dogs. What happened then in your life, personally, your career, that made you want to say, right, I've had enough of dogs, I'm going on to the next level?
No, it wasn't necessarily having enough of dogs. I still remained a dog handler. Whenever I came back to the UK, but yeah, there was a volunteer calling for, at the time they called it Optaber. I think was the original name of it, and it was a volunteer for some of us to go and serve with the SAS was the initial calling. So I volunteered. We had a selection process based on fitness and weapons handling and so on. Pushed through for that, and I went and trained with them across Brecon.
Know it well, Brecon. Lovely Brecon.
Cold, wet, muddy.
Yeah, that's similar fond memories that I have. Yeah.
Salisbury Plain and so on. I had a great time with them. So I went away, coming back from them, I went back and did the same thing again with the Gurkhas the second time round, and the same thing again third time round with Danish Special Forces. All are based, so everything was all based around mentoring Afghan forces in obviously in Afghanistan.
Yeah, and it was a tough time in Afghanistan at the time you were working with the SAS, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And the Gurkhas, actually.
It was like the Wild West in those days. It was genuinely like the Wild West. Last time round with the Danish lads, everything was a little bit more. There was more bureaucracy involved. Yeah. You know, counting your rounds in and out and all that sort of stuff became a big thing. Whereas before, I don't think anybody cared. I think at one point I had a big bag full of different ammunition and grenades and all sorts sitting under my cot bed at Lashkar. What am I to do with this?
And now that you've just given the idea of the cocktail of munitions you've got under, so it wasn't at all like you'd normally associate with the RAF. More tea vicar and just sitting around the table pouring tea. You were actually working with the SAS and the Gurkhas, and the Gurkhas have got a great deal of respect for, and the SAS, in my opinion, are the best special forces in the world. You were working with them, so, and you weren't just hanging up their jackets and what have you. What without disclosing any operational details, what was that like?
So whilst we were there as SMEs, essentially what we were just another
SMEs being
subject matter expert.
Right.
So we were there really predominantly for the detainee handling, evidence gathering, intelligence gathering sort of side of things. So yeah, when we were out on patrol, because we were pushing out on the front lines, in 2009 we were quite heavily involved in Operation Panther's Claw.
Yeah.
Which was a huge operation. So we were pushing out in all these places. We were in contact with the enemy all the time, and we were just seen as another soldier on the ground. You weren't seen as, oh, you're the subject matter expert, bugger off. You were all part of one very cohesive team, and you weren't viewed as anything different than a peer. You know, nobody viewed you any different. You were called upon to carry the GPMG. God bless the Gurkhas. Oh, big guy of that. You just mucked in and did everything that they did, and that was the end of it. It was only when it came down to you utilizing your expertise that it came in. But yeah, I mean, in 2009, I was on patrol with one of my colleagues, RAF policeman, who was shot. when we were pushing into the village during Panther's Claw. There was another one, a colleague of mine, who lost his legs to an IED explosion. Joe, and then a few years later on, there was another colleague who I didn't know, but I knew of him, who was shot and killed. So the RAF police were not above the danger. There was more of us deployed in a close support role with different regiments. We were, and the dog handlers were constantly out on the ground. Suffice to say that none of us were ever above that danger.
No.
We threw ourselves in there at this, threw ourselves in there with everybody and everything that we had. So
and it's that's interesting because it's the same with reservists, which used to be the TA when I was in Territorial Army. A round or a bullet doesn't identify you as a TA, soldier, airman, or sailor. It's just the forces, military, and that's the way it is. And there was a particular conversation exchange you had with the CO of the SAS, wasn't there? And what was his opinion of you?
So when the colonel came to monitor our confirmation exercise at the end of the pre-deployment training and this beat-up training, he was very complimentary. His actual comment was that if it hadn't been for the weapon systems, he says he would never have been able to identify who was who, because we all walked and talked and operated this exact same. He says he was very impressed to see that we'd come up so quickly,
which is a massive compliment. Yeah. So well done, congratulations. So you've served with the SAS, you've served with the Gurkhas, you've served with the Danish Special Forces, and each time you bobbing back to an RAF base for rest and recuperation, I suppose, and just regrouping, and then your relationship is blossoming, personal relationship. Tell me a little bit about that and the idiosyncrasy of how that worked and how it blended in with the military.
So there's two things. There's coming back to an RAF unit straight after and going back to your friends when you've done what we've done was a very surreal thing, because you're not with the same group of guys. You're not talking about the shared experiences you've had. I'm going back to a group of guys that had no idea, and then all of a sudden this report's important, all the rest of it. But you don't feel, hang on a minute, why is that? That's not important. Sort of. It's so there's your priorities shifted and changed through that outlook in life, and I was in a very good relationship with my now wife. We had our wedding arranged, we had our wedding planned and booked and paid for and everything else in advance. And I'm standing on the 9th green in my golf course and get a phone call. I was having a good round too. We all, and I was asked, could you deploy again? I said, when do you need me? Can you get down south? Then I can't remember what it was, for Monday. I went, press, I'm in the north of Scotland and it's Thursday. Could be tight, but yeah, I could probably manage. And I said, is this going to interfere with my wedding? So I gave him the wedding date. He said, no, right, the training is going to end here. Then you have a couple of days, then your wedding, there's 2 weeks off. Then there's confirmatory exercises, then you deploy. All right, okay, then that sounds okay. As long as it doesn't interfere with my wedding, it's fine. I got back the day before my wedding, in the morning before.
So you obviously had your stag do on the plane then.
No, thankfully I'd had that months before anyway.
Right, okay. Planning and preparation, yeah.
I wanted to make sure that if I had disappeared and woke up somewhere in foreign country, I could get back. We got married, had my 2 weeks off, disappeared for a few months, came back on R&R, planned a honeymoon. Thinking, right, let's give it enough time, give it a good 4 weeks after my expected due date, just in case I get extended. We got extended. I landed back at Bryce Norton, slept overnight, jumped on the first train back up to Scotland, Showered, changed, got in the car and drove down to Manchester Airport to fly to honeymoon. So it was touch and go.
So yeah, that's interesting. And you know, the guys who are ex-military or military who are listening to this will recognize that, because I recognize it as well. Maybe if you've not been in the military, then these are the sorts of sacrifices or interesting lives that we lead when we're in the forces, for Queen and country, or now King and country. So you've done that. You've had an interesting life. And then what's the calling for you to leave the RAF?
So when I was on my honeymoon, I was doing what all gentlemen do, scratching myself in the morning, and it was a lump. So yeah, I found a lump on my left testicle. I waited till I got back from honeymoon, went to the doctors, was told it's just a cyst, you'll be fine, go away. About a month or so later, I'm sitting there. My wife had pointed out I was having naps. I don't do that. I live off 5 hours sleep a night max. I'm up early every morning. I was going for runs and all that sort of stuff. But I was starting getting tired. So I was having naps. She says, "That's not like you." So I went back to the doctors. I said, "Look, I'm not feeling right. Is it anything to do with this lump?" No, it's just go away. It'll be fine. I went to do the trim trail one day, and I found myself getting really tired. And I thought, I normally smash this out the park. What's happening with me? I remember on that last one of the guys had commented about my fitness, and I thought nothing of it. I thought, no, I must be a bit fatigued.
Yeah.
And then I realized doing the trim trail, I was just so tired. So I went back to the docs again. I noticed that the lump was getting bigger. I was saying, look, this lump's getting bigger. So over a period of about 6 months, I kept going back to the doctor saying, I don't feel right. I'm constantly tired. My fitness is waning. I don't feel good in myself, and this lump seems to be getting bigger. It's just a cyst, go away, it'll be fine.
While you're doing this, because I just want to explore this a little bit further, right? You've been at the top of your game with fitness pretty much all the way through your life.
Yep.
Your mind's always working. You're focusing on a success. On your honeymoon, you feel a lump on your testicle, right? You recognize something's not right. Your wife spots that you're sleeping a lot, you're tired. You're having then this internal struggle, as I see it, that you're not performing. Your mates are saying you're slacking, or you're not as good as you used to be. You think maybe you're feeling a little bit unwell, and then you keep going back to the doctor, and the doctor's saying, "Oh, you're fine." So what internal struggle are you having at this time?
At that time, nothing. I knew the point that there was something not right, and I could only link it to this lump. So that last appointment I had with the doctor, it was a case of I'd gone. She said, "I'm just going to have to concur with what the previous doctors have said, that it's just a cyst." I said, "Look, can't you send me for a scan?" And the one thing that stuck in my head was the way she said it was, "I'll send you for a scan. If I'll put your mind at ease," was the way she said it. There was a big sigh as she said it, and I thought, no, I want this checked out. I know I'm not right. So right enough, I got a scan about 2 weeks later. I was up at urology. They did the scan. They said, yes, there's definitely lumps there. There wasn't just one, there was two. So they brought me in. 2 weeks later, I had an orchidectomy, so the removal of my left testicle. They confirmed that there was a seminoma and a teratoma, which is 2 types of cancer, 2 types of tumor. I was scanned. They said, right, okay, there's nothing in your body. We'll scan you again in 6 weeks just to make sure. So sadly, between that nothing in my body to 6 weeks later, this cancer had spread all the way through my lungs. So it was quite harsh and quite rapid. So yeah, I think I was right to press the doctors at some point to say, look, what's going on here?
And at this point, then it would be fair to say that you might be feeling a little bit low. What was going on in your mind then?
Actually, I wasn't at that point. I was more focused on recovery. I was more focused on getting through everything. At the time between the orchidectomy and this cancer having spread, my wife fell pregnant with our child at that point. So I've got a pregnant wife. I'm going through chemotherapy. And the funniest part of this was the baby brain, chemo brain thing. So one of the chemotherapies I was getting had it's just called cisplatin. It contains platinum, and it causes short-term memory loss. My wife with baby brain and myself with short-term memory loss would go to the supermarket, come out, and how did we get here? What did we come here for? We drive here. Where's the car? It was that kind of moment all the time.
Yeah.
So we find a lot of humor in it, as well as
and the reason that I led in with you probably feeling pretty low is because that's what the normal approach would be, or the normal assumption, and yet you weren't, and you've just stated that, and in fact you used the things that would probably bring the everyday person down, having memory loss, and it's because of this. You didn't, did you? You took the positive view.
No, at that time, everything was just try to look positively. So, for example, I mean, I was sat in the ward in Aberdeen Hospital from a chemotherapy treatment. I would go up there for a week at a time,
Yeah.
And I remember I was actually speaking. It was a retired chief inspector was in the bed next to me, and who had also served in the RAF police during national service days.
Okay.
And we were sitting chatting away and all the rest of it. And it's one of those things where you see how poorly and how badly cancer can affect the others in the world around you. And one of the older gentlemen across from me was literally snoring his head off 1 minute and then dead the next. This guy just gone. When you realize that it can hit you like that, and it's hard. I felt quite confident knowing that this modern age, testicular cancer is not a death sentence now. You go back 30 years when it spread the way it had with me, it would have been a death sentence. But the treatments and the advancements and the treatment has really given everybody hope in our respect.
And what year was this, by the way?
This was 2013.
So after the rehabilitation period, how long did that take, roundabout?
So the chemo I got blasted with it for about 3 months, continuously. Then after that, it took me a wee while after that, but I think it was the fact that things didn't really, I don't think things really sunk in until after it was all done. I started, I couldn't come to terms with the fact that I wasn't the same person anymore. I wasn't the same, you pump full of steroids, you put on loads of weight. In fact, actually, my mum, being my mum, when she came in to see me in the hospital, she didn't say, "Hi, son, how you doing?" or anything like that. She went, "Oh, you're fat. I've never seen you fat." Which, whatever goes in old people's heads is the first thing that comes out their mouths. It's
by the way, how did you feel when she said that?
I'm just kind of used to that with her. It was silly things like that. I still use humor to not mask things. I try to find the upside in most things. The oncologist was talking to me about stuff afterwards and all the rest of it, and of course I would turn around and say, "Well, you told me my hair would grow back," silly things like that, and he just threw you a look as if to say, "Hey, hang on, are you taking the mickey out of me or not?" Until the penny drops, it's still never grown back.
And so the chemo's finished, the treatment's finished, you're still in the RAF. What sort of conversation did you have with your superiors then about your career?
So obviously you're downgraded. We all know that dreaded word. I was no longer allowed to deploy. it would take 10 years. I had to be completely all clear before I'd be deploying. It was 10 years. And I thought, you know, I had about 6 years until I hit my pensionable engagement. I was just like, you know, let's just try and ride something out. They asked me what I wanted to do. I said I'd like to go CI, do the counterintelligence.
CI being
The counterintelligence side, which is what I wanted to do. I went down and did the training down in Portsmouth. Another fabulous place to be. I really enjoyed Portsmouth.
Right, good.
Yeah, a lovely place. You know, started doing that on operations, and then literally about a year later, I specialized in cybersecurity. And I took that specialization on as well, which was good because secretively the whole time I've always been a bit of an inner geek anyway. And I think anybody that ever knew me knows that about me anyway. So that really kind of appealed to me, the cyber side. Yeah, aside from the bureaucracy at that point, I actually really enjoyed what I did. I loved it. You know, we were doing a lot of there's a lot of risk management.
Hey, do you enjoy sipping a good glass of wine? As you know, sipping too much wine can leave you feeling groggy in the mornings. For less than the price of a good bottle of wine, you can gain access to valuable business and life resources gained from my over 37 years in business and 15 years in the military. These world-class resources are designed to help you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations you deserve. So visit joelteams.com now to find out more. That's JOETEAMS.com to find out more.
Essentially, you know, we're looking at the risk for our assets, deployed assets, home assets, all the rest of it. Like I said at the start there, there's a lot of stuff that we do in terms of the risk management, and then that follows on. So we employ mitigation strategies to mitigate those risks. A lot of the time that ends up being more of a project management side of things. You know, you're overseeing the implementation of these risk management, risk mitigation strategies. You know, and it could be anything, simple things, you know, from the change of a door on a security building, because it needs to be at a certain compliance standard. Let's go put that door in there. It has to be changed. It needs to meet this standard, or otherwise our secret information is at risk and all that sort of stuff. To a full site build, you know, I looked at Saxaford was the big one. We were putting in a new radar site up there. Let's have a look at the security infrastructure. What do we need? So you go up there, you meet with the stakeholders up there, sort of SSG and DIO and all these people, right? Let's draw the plans up. So we'd have an architect draw the plans of where we wanted things and how we wanted everything to look and do. And
because it's an important role, because at the end of the day, you're protecting the sovereignty, aren't you? You're protecting our country.
Yeah, and that's it. I think that's one of the things that does get lost with the RAF. You know, we are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're there for the defence of the UK. I mean, it's full-time operations, home operations. You know, QRA, for example, Lossiemouth, which is where I was based. The QRA there is on 24/7 alert for intercepting anything coming to UK airspace.
And that's the quick reaction, isn't it?
That's a quick reaction alert, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're always working in support of that operation all the time. So yeah, I mean, anything that we had, you know, from the typhoons, everything, you know, you're looking at classified information, so you know we had to protect it. You know, there is that real risk. If we're intercepting the Russians, why don't they want to know what goes on in our base, sort of thing? And that's the kind of ethos I was always trying to push out in the education pieces. You know, you can't be that naive that they don't want to know what goes on in our base, to see how we react, see how we operate, to see how things work, so they can counter whatever it is we do. So yeah, there was a real threat there, even though we're in the UK, everything looks shiny, everything looks good. I think there's you know, anybody that didn't believe there was a threat is very, very naive.
Yeah. Yes, entirely. And I remember people often ask in the general public, we'd like to have freedom of information, we want to know this, that, and the other. And when I was serving in bomb disposal and with the Royal Engineers generally, people really shouldn't know most of the stuff that goes on because it would stop them from sleeping?
It's not so much that. I mean, it's a lot of the time there's a certain component when we classify information. It's usually because there's a certain number of lives at risk if that information were to get out.
Yeah.
Whether that be pilot's life for the QRA jets, whether that be the person at home, whether it be the population of the UK. So you're looking at if this information is leaked, if this is compromised, people are at risk.
And I suppose the point I was making really was that some things should be kept
absolutely
under wraps, and other stuff can be shared. Yeah. So great. So you come to the point now where you're thinking about life beyond the military. What's going on?
Yeah. I fell in love with project management. I seem to have a knack and a flair for it. Especially with the stakeholder engagement side of things. I was commended for that. My last day in the Air Force, Station Warrant Officer came and took me to the Station Commander's office where I was read the citation for, the work I'd done at Saxford. That was quite a proud moment. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I was looking at exploring all that. I was going to use my ELCs for the courses and stuff, and
ELC being early learning credits.
Enhanced learning credits.
Enhanced learning credits. Yes.
But yeah, I explored a few options, and I'd gone to an insights night in Glasgow for a company called the FDM Group, and they had an ex-forces program. So they're on an advanced program and a basic program. So one went through sort of software development, business analytics, that sort of side of things, and the other one was down the project management route. I thought, well, obviously there's always that little bit of imposter syndrome at the time. Do I go for this? What happens if I fail? Do I really know what I think I know? I turned up. I said, right, I'd really like to do this. They brought me in. It's actually a very, very tough test. So you're given a scenario and all the rest of it, and you read through it for a short amount of time. You do a presentation on it, and to see how this project is progressing, essentially, through the information you've got. And yeah, they were very happy with me. They took me on, trained me up, certified me with a group of other ex-forces, one being an ex-Royal Engineers bomb disposal captain.
Right, okay. Good.
Yeah. A couple of guys from the Signals and one from the RLC, and we had a great time together. We helped each other through the training, as you do, because we all muck in. It was something that I noticed that was different from, because there's a graduate program that they do. They focus primarily on graduates. And it was one thing. So myself and the Doug, who was the ex-engineer, we went on to do the business analyst course and an SQL course.
Right.
The training there after we'd finished our training until we were placed with the company. And the one thing we noticed there that stood out above everything else, when we were together as a group of ex-forces, we helped each other out massively. Where somebody like my friend Ash, who stood up, he had a load of great knowledge on project management, and he would stand up and help us through bits that we couldn't understand, because he understood it, or vice versa. Anything technical, I could stand up and help through the technical. All these different things. So we helped each other relentlessly through the whole training. Doug and I went in and sat with the graduates through a business analyst course, and not one of them would put their hand up to speak. They were all very reluctant to sort of just stand up and take charge. Somebody to stand up and say, "Oh, I know how to do this." They've come from business degrees and things like that. Yeah. Stand up and do something. So we ended up leading the way pretty much, and trying to lead the groups that we're splitting the groups. We're trying to lead the groups through the creating Reiki charts and things like this, and how we would go about it.
So I'm going to jump in here, because one of the questions I like to cover is about skills and how transferable they are, and I think because I'm going to pick up that thread again in a minute. I think this is a great spot to identify to guys in the military coming out, or maybe veterans who are thinking they're not fitting in all that well, or people generally, how transferable do you think the skills are that you learned and discovered about yourself in Civvy Street?
I genuinely think they're invaluable. You can't put a price on them. Now, it's not to say that anybody coming out of university doesn't have these skills at all. I'll not quash anybody in that respect. But I think we shine a lot more, especially through resilience. You know, we're deliberately put through hard times to be resilient.
Yeah.
In the military, regardless of what branch of trade you've done, you're still put through arduous times based on that is a skill set that you need. Again, the teamwork and the bonding. You know, in the military, we come from every corner of the country and outside the country as well.
Commonwealth, exactly.
Yeah. So we have such a diverse set of backgrounds coming from, you know, rich, poor, you know, slightly older, younger, university, you know, all these different backgrounds all coming together. And we make it work. Now, usually that's over a lot of drink. Go out and get drunk, bash each other's heads in. We're all friends now. Happy days. But no, we do. We make it work. We understand. We how do we put it? We can be probing, can't we?
Yeah.
I think in Civvy Street it can be seen as rude when you ask the questions the way some of us used to ask the questions. What's that on you? You know, it's all these kind of things. You just to get through that and bond together as a group.
It is true to say that we have a familiar directness.
Yes, we can be blunt.
Yeah.
Yes, directness is a good way to put it.
So you're wondering what to do though, and you've recognised your skills, and you've buddied up with Royal Engineer officer, former officer captain. And you're in the FDM group, aren't you?
We are, yeah. So we both got put up for a role at the Royal Bank of Scotland as a project manager. And I remember this, because we were getting interviewed one after the other, so we were both there at the same time waiting to be interviewed, and we wished each other good luck. You know, there was none of strangely, there was no animosity, there was nothing. I think either of us would have been happy whoever got it.
Yeah.
As it turned out, the recruiter wanted us both. He started the week before I was due to start, but sadly, before I signed my contract, they said, no, we're pulling the plug on the project. I didn't get to start. So I sadly left FDM Group. So they have a certain amount of time to get you placed with the company and all the rest of it. But the good news is you walk away with the training gratis. You know, that training is free.
Yeah.
All the certifications that your Prince 2, your Scrum Masters, your ITIL, all this stuff, it's all free if they can't get you placed. I obviously started applying for jobs. I was still on maternal leave anyway at this point, so I was able to start applying for jobs. And I got picked up by the Scottish Government for a place called the Care Inspectorate as a Scrum Master.
And how did that go?
Yeah, I was successful. I got picked up. I was employed there. I was driving their Scrum teams and their software development projects and digital transformation project, as well as the data migration that was going on there. Built up a really good set of teams. Yeah, we had a great time until there is a butt coming in. So. But we being Scottish Government, they pulled in a program manager who was, of all the characters I've ever come across, even in the military, this was somebody that I wasn't able to deal with. He was the most belligerent buffoon I think I've ever come across in my life.
Okay, so if he was a dog, right, it would probably be Index for the dog. Because
treacherous. We call the dogs treacherous when they constantly turn on anybody trying to handle the dog or get the dog. He was that kind of way.
Right. And how did that affect your career then with them?
Let's put it this way. I went into a meeting at 8:30 one morning. I was home by 9 o'clock. So,
Right. So
the funny thing was, I become disaffected. It got to a point where my ability, so part of the role as a scrum master is to defend the team and to defend the process as a scrum, and the manner in which we work and we deliver the software.
yeah.
And that had been removed from me completely at this point. So I had no control over what was happening to the team. Things were getting changed for the worse. The team were becoming disaffected.
Yeah.
And when I lost that control, I had it out and I said, look, this is whole. The environment's become toxic. I can't. You've taken away anything that I can do. I quit.
So effectively, you've been moved from a scrum master to the water boy, where you couldn't control anything apart from
Yeah.
the water.
I've become a bat boy essentially, and that's probably an un-PC term to use. But yeah, it was really frustrating, and it happened over a very short period of time. This was over about a month, and I remember when I was sitting in that discussion with him. There was I don't know if you remember it. There was a whole thing, things you just say and not do when you leave the service. There's the joke. And at the bottom, there was a line that says, "Don't forget, you can always quit." I went, "Well, I quit. See you later."
Which is great, yeah. Well, because take responsibility for your position and just go.
Yeah, I didn't need to be in a toxic environment, and of course, I walked away, and I was really questioning what more could I have done. I tried doing different things. I tried turning it around on him, saying, "Right, okay, you're asking this of me. Teach me." I was trying to sort of put the thing on him.
And by the way, by this point, I mean, your full term with them was 1 year, 4 months, and it was only in the last month that it all went pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So maybe you've been doing great before then. Maybe it was something. Well, it had to be them.
Well, I say everything happens for a reason. It was one of those things. Don't get me wrong. It was a terrifying moment because you've just quit. You've got no income coming in. Find something quick. All that sort of stuff sort of hits you a little bit quick. But it was just a case of getting right. I can't just sit around. I can't feel sorry for myself or anything like that. Let's just knuckle down and get on with this. Reach out to my network. Let's start looking at the roles that are out there that I can apply for, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I just sat down and got on with it. It was I didn't look back. And when you do start thinking about it, the one thing that hit home to me was they went through 13 other additional Scrum Masters in that role in 2 years. So it wasn't just me. When you start thinking, what more could I have done? What more could I have done? No, I think the last one they had there just recently only lasted a month. And so they're looking again for another one. So how people get away with it, remain in these positions, I don't know. But sorry, guys, you may well come across somebody like that, but don't be afraid to quit. Good things happen at the end.
And while on that, because what I find with emotions, it's like when your knowledge is low on something, your anxiety can be high. And as your knowledge grows, your anxiety goes down and you become more relaxed. And that's pretty much in life, isn't it? So when you started as a Scrum Master with the current inspectorate, after you just didn't get the placement with Barclays, then your anxiety could have gone up again. And then as you settled into the inspectorate, you were okay. And then anxiety again because of this guy that was put in management. And it's great that you can just have the fortitude and the strength to just say, all bets are off.
There was that aspect of it. I've always been quite confident in my abilities anyway. Whether it's sometimes a false front or not, I think showing confidence and believing in yourself does help.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's still always the weak moments. There's the odd day here or there where you do sink rock bottom, and you do start having that anxiety creeping into your head because it's been gone adversely. But if you don't just sort of batten down the hatches and get on with it and go through that resilience phase, how do we get through things? Nothing's going to happen for you. You need to make it work. So you need to have that resilience to just keep fighting on and keep battering on.
Right. So now you just before Christmas in December 2019, and you say do one to the current inspectorate job.
So that was, October 2019 that was.
And then the thing is that you just knuckle down, say, what can I do now? And then, lo and behold,
it was literally, I think it was about 2 weeks. It didn't last long. So there's two parts of this. So the FDM came back. So I reached out to my network and a good contact of mine that I'd made, and a good friend actually, Billy King at FDM Group. I said, do you remember Chaz, one of the academy trainers at FDM? He says, ex-military, ex-army guy. He says, he's leaving. Would you be interested in becoming a trainer?
Right.
I went, yeah. I used to instruct a lot of times in the forces. Yeah, I'd love to. He says, right, let's set up. Send me through the CV and all the rest of it. And Joe, one of the things I'd always say about wherever you go and whatever job you do, make it, even if you don't enjoy the job, just make a good impression. Throw everything you've got out and make a good impression, because I think I'd done enough of that in the short time I'd spent at FDM that when I turned up for my interview, everybody turned around and went, "Oh, you're back. Hi." I was like, what? So they all remembered me.
Have you ever wondered what is going to happen to all your knowledge, wisdom, and skills when you die? Yeah, me too. That is exactly the reason why I created joelteeve.com, so I can leave a legacy for my children and for other successful people who are just like you. For less than 40 pence per day, you get access to valuable business and life resources gained from my over 37 years in business and 15 years in the military. These world-class resources are designed to help you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations you deserve. So visit joelteams.com now to find out more. That's joelteams.com, joelteams.com to find out more.
They all thought I was a great fit, and I landed the role as an academy trainer back at FDM Group again, which was fantastic, because it's a fantastic working environment. It's a great place to be. The difference between public sector and private sector that I've found predominantly is private sector will not tolerate toxic behavior.
Yeah.
And anything like that adversely affects people in the workplace, especially in places like FDM Group, they're gone very quickly. A good attitude, good motivation, and to get on in things and just knuckle down and be as good as you can be at anything helps shine through.
And so you're with them for 2 years. You've got a great working relationship with them. And you learn a lot as well. And it's great about leading people, because getting someone else to do what they wouldn't have done had you not been there. So being able to bring on others like you did throughout your military career as well. Then what changed that made you want to move on?
I mean, predominantly it was my friend who was working for the company I went to, Contrast, had said, we're looking for a program manager. I've suggested you, would you be interested? I looked at the role and I weighed up the options, because I really enjoyed 100%, really loved being at FDM, but there was still that part of me that preferred to do, I'm teaching these guys off of the experience I had in the MOD, which is not quite the same as you would have in industry. And I just felt I would benefit more doing more in industry. If I ever go back and become a trainer again somewhere, happy days. I'm all for that. Probably certainly towards my retirement phase, I would love to do that. But whilst youth was still on my side, I say youth, I'm 50 next year.
Whippersnapper, mate.
I said, I've also still got youth on my side. I want to do more. I want to gain more experience. I want to gain more knowledge. So yeah, I resigned from FDM with a lot of regret, but at the same time, I really looked forward to working at Contrast, and I did. I thoroughly enjoyed working at Contrast as a program manager there, putting into places loads of different processes and policies and driving agile teams and products. Yeah, and it was a fantastic, again, zero toxic behavior. Zero tolerance for toxic behavior. The team I had were absolutely fantastic. Couple ex-military, an ex-US Marine and ex-US Army that I was working. My mate that brought me on board, he was part of the team as well as Royal Navy Reserves. So there was a good lot of banter in there. There was a lot of ex-forces in the
yeah, I can imagine the relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a really good place to be. A lot of good experience.
So you mentioned about networks, whether it be social or business networks. How important do you think that is in helping you or someone who wants to get on? How important do you think having a good network is?
Hugely. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get you a job. So with Contrast Security, I was made redundant there in September, which was sad to see. I have no regrets about that, because a company, it's a startup company, and companies need to do what they need to do. They've just come through a double recession. They're hemorrhaging cash. What superfluous assets can we get rid of to help us? And usually sadly for anybody that's getting into project management, the PMOs are usually the first ones to go. Yes, we facilitate, but we don't develop. So that's part of the problem. So bear that in mind. So yeah, I was made redundant then, and the first thing that I was in two minds, because I've seen cross stories about whether you should announce on LinkedIn, for example, that you're looking for work, or whether you should keep it quiet, because recruiters, if they think you're working, tend to come to you more. I thought, no, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to use my network. And I was right to. Whether they get you a job or not, the support that they can offer is huge. It makes you feel valued. One of the first people that reached out to me again were a lot of the FDM guys. I trained a lot of the graduates and ex-forces guys there, and straight away they were all pinging me saying, "Oh, Pete, have you had this job? We're sorry to hear about this. Is there anything I can do to help?" And just knowing that there's people out there that have your back, as we have in the military, was a really heartwarming thing. It gives you the confidence. It helps you through. So yeah, having a good network is really key.
And what I get is the streams of success and how you get it. What is the secret of your success, do you think?
I'm stubborn. Is there a fine line between resilience and stubbornness? No, I think I throw everything I've got at something. Even in the forces, anybody that ever worked with me would just say, "Oh, he was a hard worker,"
Yeah.
They'd probably say I'm a bit of a dick as well. Join
the club, mate. Yeah. I'm sure some people might address me in that way too.
We're going to get that. You can't appease everybody, can you?
No, definitely not.
But yeah, build good relationships and throw everything you've got at something. Just even if you don't enjoy the job, there's all the jobs that we did in the forces that we hated, we didn't want to do. Guard duty, nobody wants to go and stag on over Christmas, for example. But if you throw yourself at it and just get on and think, right, well, this is my lot, and we do this in the military, don't we? Wherever we are, whatever crappy situation we're in, we just get on with it, and we try to make the most of where we are and what we've got.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. But I've been lucky. The jobs I've had, I have genuinely enjoyed 100%. Yes, barring one small blip with a personality conflict.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's all about that, making an impression. When you make an impression, when you help people, when you lead people. Bear in mind, leadership not being in a management position, it's just inspiring people and helping them through things. That's when people have your back.
And I remember on the bright side, the funny side, in the squadron bar on a Friday when we weren't out on tour, we used to be someone in the troop would be presented. If we look at the genitalia remark that you made, as people have called you, well, we had a phallic symbol that the woodwork department had carved, and you got that presented because you dropped the bollock, the biggest bollock in the week. And the fact is, it wasn't meant in a detrimental way or oppressive way. It was like light-hearted to show that what you're going to do, or to teach you that you've done something not so great, and what you're going to do to make it better next time, and even ask for help.
Yeah, don't. That's the key thing. So I'm not going to listen to the guys. Oh, you don't announce on LinkedIn that you've been made redundant or you're looking for work, because reaching out and asking for help helps. You know, you're not expecting somebody to come up and actually land you a job or give you a job. Yes, there's the rare time that might happen.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got support, and you've got people looking out for you. One of my friends in the GAT, absolutely amazing person, straight away saying, look, we've got positions coming at my company. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to speak to them. I'm going to make sure you get an interview and all that sort of stuff. And whether I do or not, just the knowledge that somebody out there is looking out for you is enough. You know, it's enough to keep your confidence going. It's enough to keep your chin up and drive on. Whereas if you don't do it and nobody's any the wiser, you're not going to get the same support. You're going to be drowning. You're going to be looking after yourself, and everything will just be swimming around in your own head, with no support, no knowledge that anybody else is out there trying to look out for you and help you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's to me, it's worth reaching out. It's worth building up a good network as well.
The next word I want you to address and think about is a word that people often find is not productive, and it's failure, right? And I believe that failure is something great, and I want your opinion and how you view failure.
Failure is a success. Genuinely, I mean, there's not one person that's going to listen to this or you speak to that has never failed in their life. Don't get me wrong, I've come across some students or graduates that feel that they've never failed in their life, because they've had straight A's, they've worked hard and they've done it. So to an extent, they've not experienced real failure. They've failed at some little things, but they've never experienced real failure. I mean, I have screwed up massively in my time. We all have.
Congratulations.
I have been front and center on numerous occasions, as we do. Actually, more so for pulling really bad practical jokes that have gone wrong. It's one of those things. But yeah, but you do, as long as you learn from it, you don't make the same mistake twice. So one of the things after that redundancy, I was busy applying for jobs, and I'd gotten a few interviews and things like that, but there was one role that I applied for in particular. Oh, actually, there was two companies I applied for. One, I was getting over with them. I was thinking, hang on a minute, I've trained lots of your guys when I was with FDN, and I can't even get to interview with you. What's happening? And another role that I applied for, I ticked every single box. I submitted my application. I thought, right, I'm still SC cleared, so I was applying as SC cleared. I've got all these qualifications that you need. I've got this experience that you're looking for specifically. And the rejection came back in 15 minutes flat. And I was like, no, that's not right. Something is genuinely wrong here. So I reached out to another acquaintance of mine on LinkedIn who offers CV reviews. I says, could you have a look at mine, David? Said, yeah. He says, content is fine. What I'm going to say to you is it's not ATS readable. And this was something I never knew about. So
ATS being...
I don't actually know. I can't remember what it stands for, but basically it's an automatic CV reader. So it's like an
okay.
And a lot of these big companies, if you've applied for something, it was Workday is the tool that you apply through. And all they're doing is they're picking up keywords, the keywords and the key things. And I thought I'd been putting that in my CV, but I'd done it in a tabular form. So I had everything all tabled out so I could structure it a way I felt good. My personal details were all in a header. all that sort of stuff. So I thought my CV was looking good, but apparently this thing doesn't read headers, doesn't read different colored font other than black, doesn't read hyperlinks, doesn't read tables. So essentially all this, every time I'm putting a CV in at the minute over the first sort of 2.5 months of being made redundant, all it would read is the subheadings for each section. I was like, that's why I'm getting rejected, because it's not reading anything in my CV. These automatic readers. I mean, and the only way I was getting an interview was the smaller companies that didn't use them.
Right. Okay. That's a
So
great tip. Yeah.
yeah, so I paid for his CV Express. David Goresh, IT Contract and Academy, which is fantastic. He does do a really good job helping people, again, like yourself.
Yeah.
So he did this CV Express for me. I've since changed it, and since changing it, I've been offered a lot more interviews, actually.
Wow.
Already. So I finished up. I had a final stage interview last night. I've got another one in 2 weeks. I've got another one next week, and so on. So, Joe, things started moving very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I thought, hang on, I do have skills. I do have experience. I do have all this. What's going wrong? What's going on? I'm finding that out, and then since putting it all in now through this correct format, things have started moving along at a much faster pace. So
So that's a perfect example
that's
of
a failure turning
a failure is what can you learn from it? And I believe, and I've said it before, and I know I'll say it again, fail is first attempt in learning. First attempt in learning. And you've done that, which is absolutely brilliant. So, along the way as well, you weren't born knowing everything that you know now.
No.
It couldn't be possible. And along the way, you've had coaches and mentors, DS, directive staff, or some sort of training, people who've trained you. How important do you think it is to have a good coach or mentor, or both?
Hugely. It's strange when you say mentor. I look up to people that I view as a mentor. They'll not see themselves as a mentor, perhaps. Two from FDM that stand out massively: Billy King and Norm Yarwood. Both ex-RSM from Signals. They've both gone through that line. Massively inspirational. They're so positive. They're so focused. Their only drive is to help ex-forces, and it's fantastic to see. I remember the one thing I struggled with when I left, although I had a good experience, good background, was the transition in language. So we have our own language in the military, and we talk our own language. We don't think we do, but we do. And I did a mock interview with Norm at FDM Group when I was there, and he asked me, he says, "So, how technical are you?" I said, "Well, I wasn't a technician, so I wouldn't be that technical." He says, "No. So you're saying you're not technical at all?" I says, "Not really. No, I wasn't a technician, because I wasn't a technical trader.
Yeah.
I'm not technical in my view, in my head." And eventually he just stopped it there. He's like, "Right, Pete, I'm going to stop you there. Can you build a computer?" I went, "Yes." "Perfect. Can you configure a network?" I went, "Yes." He says, "Can you program anything?" I went, "Yes, I know this language and this language." Right, okay. "So what you're telling me is you're really technical." "Yeah, but I wasn't a technician, so I'm not." He says, "Right, I've got to say it again. What you're telling me is you're really technical." He says, "Pete, you're going to go out into that big world, and you're going to come across people that don't know how to open a Word document." And I thought that was a big exaggeration. I thought, right, okay, I kind of get your point. I get that there's going to be a non-technical people there. And I got my head around it eventually. And when I started working for the Care Inspectorate, they all come from nursing backgrounds or mental health backgrounds. Yeah. And the first thing I had was when I asked somebody to send me a screen dump of something. How do I do that then?
Yeah.
Do you know, now having to talk somebody through the print screen, paste in the email. They had no. Some of them didn't know how to log on to things. I was like, right, okay. And all I could picture in my head was Norm saying, "You're going to come across people that don't know how to open a Word document." I thought, he's right. He's absolutely right.
And sometimes that can be the biggest Achilles heel, can't it? Not recognizing your skills. And that's why I asked the question about mentors and transferability of skills. Because Because sometimes, and what's the secret of your success is an interesting question as well, because probably if we hadn't have had the chat before, you might think, well, I'm not successful yet because you haven't got where you want to be, although everything that you've done before just oozes success, if that makes sense.
Do you know, I don't, it's strange because you say success. I don't see myself as a success, but I could perhaps, hopefully see myself as a little bit inspirational to others.
Yeah.
Which if I do, to me, inspiring somebody else to have done something or to have achieved something, to me is a success. It's kind of why it's part of the reason I actually love being an academy trainer, because you were seeing people become successes on the back of what you've taught them.
Yeah.
Likewise, the successes I saw at Contrast were when we achieved the releases we needed to do with the software.
Yeah.
Even now, the successes I've seen, I think I focus. This is actually something that does come into my head now. Is I say this all the time. I'm a golfer, so when you talk about failure and things like that, it's a big part of golf. We all. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah. Oh no, it's okay. I know where you're coming from.
I keep saying I have a different outlook on the way I play golf. I as long as I'm out there, I'm happy, and it doesn't matter how badly I'm playing. So I look at the marginal gains.
Yeah.
Where was my improvement? Even if it's been a bad round, what was my improvement through the round? What marginally can I focus on? And I look at the same thing now. So yes, whilst I'm been a man of leisure and redundancy at the minute, it's a case of look at the marginal gains, right? So an interview, getting to an interview stage is a success. It's a marginal gain. I might not get the job, but I'm achieving something through the process. And that to me is success. I am not looking to be a CEO of a company. I'm not looking to be in a big management position. I'm doing what I do because I really enjoy it. I want to go down this line of work because I love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm quite passionate about it, and so that to me is a success, is achieving what I want to achieve. Whereas other people might be becoming the CEO of their own company, or landing this super duper business role somewhere that they want to do, or owning their own business like a garage or whatever they want to achieve in life. That might be their success. But
very well. Well, we're coming to the end now, and I've got the Columbo question, if you like, and just one more thing. What is the one tip that you would give to someone who's leaving the military, or has already left the military, or maybe hasn't been in the military but has a soft spot for the military, and maybe they're not getting the results that they want? What would be the top tip from you to help them just get to where they want to be?
If you're leaving the military, have a direction. Know where you want to be. Everybody talks about a 5-year plan. Do it. Sit down, write it out. What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? Because ultimately that'll help you achieve that goal and get where you want to be. Now, it might be if you're leaving and you want to be a mechanic, and it turns out that 5 years down the line it's not for you, change. Do another 5-year plan. But at least have a direction coming out. Don't just sit there going, I don't know what to do. Work it out. Have a look at your skills. Sit down with somebody. Talk to somebody over the skills that you have. To help you find a direction. Use your friends, use your network, and just go for it. Throw yourself 100% at it, and if all else fails, it wasn't for you. Try something else. So,
thank you. It's great, and you know what? I know at the minute that you're open to network. You're looking for your next position where you can help other people, and of course help yourself and your family. And I would like to think that you can use this recording to be able to give probably the best CV you could ever give. And I would really like to thank you for sharing your life experience, wisdom and knowledge with us today on this podcast. So, Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Pleasure.
JoeTeams.com is a resource I have created to fulfill my mission to help 1 million veterans and business entrepreneurs like you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations they deserve. JoelTeams.com is jam-packed full of valuable resources specifically designed to help you on your journey to success. Visit JoelTeams.com now to find out how you can join and start your journey to success immediately. That's JoelTeams.com, JoelTeams, JoelTeams.com. And until we meet again, have a brilliant day.